Matt, as a person who is both sort of a data user and someone who works for the Census Bureau, and you have a deep investment in privacy protection so that you'll be able to collect complete data and comply with the law, I know that you've been doing a lot of analysis of how the disclosure avoidance system is functioning. Can you talk a little bit about how you're analyzing the data and the tools you're providing to the public to help them do their own analysis?
Absolutely. Thank you, Megan. So, as you mentioned, I am in the population division of the U.S. Census Bureau, and we are the sort of subject matter experts responsible for ensuring the quality of the data, the accuracy of the data throughout the entire process, from gathering the data to publishing the data. So this is a natural extension of the work that we do already. We have, since the beginning, worked hand in hand with the disclosure avoidance science team and others to sort of evaluate the use cases, evaluate the accuracy of the data that we've received as part of these disclosure avoidance improvements and developments over the years. So I'm showing you now the web page, which talks about some of this demonstration data and the progress metrics that we've published. We are going to go through in detail the detailed summary metrics, which our team of subject matter experts sort of developed and added to in response to stakeholder feedback, which allows you to sort of compare the accuracy, the bias, the fairness, and outliers for these demonstration data. So if you scroll down, you can see that the latest release was the 28th of this month. And if you open that up, you'll see some information. We released two different versions of the data and the summary metrics this time. One at global epsilon of 12.2, which, as Michael was saying, is much more likely to be close to the level that is actually released for the redistricting data in August and September. We also included a lower privacy loss budget of 4.5 to allow users to compare to prior runs of the demonstration data, so you can see the improvements that are due to the algorithm and the improvements that are due to the increased epsilon. So you can actually even download the microdata if you're interested, but right now I'm going to be focused on these detailed summary metrics. So here I'm going to open up the 12.2. When you open up the 12.2, you can see a little bit of a README file. This discusses some of the improvements that have been made. We have a list of all of the tables that are included as part of these summary metrics. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat here in that some of these tables will be blank because we just simply don't have the data yet to publish data about this. So one example is single year of age or sex. The redistricting data that these demonstration data are just do not include single year of age or sex. They include voting age population, but they don't include the detailed age. We also don't include a lot of the housing unit data or sort of family relationship data. Those data will be released in a later release as part of the DHC, and those are coming later. But first, we're doing the PL. So the main tab of these demonstration metrics, these detailed summary metrics, is the third tab, what's called the updated BAP, or Basic Accuracy Profile. And what you can see here is a list of tables with some metrics. These metrics generally fall into one of three categories. First is measuring accuracy. That's very important. Obviously, we want to see accurate data. So how do we measure accuracy? Well, one way that we do it is we compare, we get this run from the disclosure avoidance system, the top-down algorithm. We get a run of microdata, and we tabulate the data. And then we compare those tabulated data to those tabulated values to our actually published 2010 values. Remember, this is all 2010 data. So this is really just looking to see how much the disclosure avoidance has changed, not actually seeing any changes over the last 10 years. So, we're comparing 2010 data that's been protected by the top-down algorithm to the published 2010 data. So we measure that in a couple of ways. We can measure these, the accuracy in a couple of ways. So the first one I'm going to start with is here, mean absolute error, MAE. And you can see here, this is the, total population for counties. We've got all counties here on row 7. I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit so everyone can see. I hope that's big enough. We've got total population for counties. We've got an MAE of 4.91. Now, what does that mean in practice? Well, the way to think of it is that the average county will see a gain or a loss of about 5 people in their total population. The precise way that this is calculated is you take all 3,143 counties that were in the United States, excluding Puerto Rico, and you take the tabulated, for each one of those, you take the tabulated data from the Disclosure Avoidance System, and you find the difference between that and the published data. You take the absolute value of that, so maybe you're off by 10 or maybe you're off by 20, and then you take the average across all 3,143. And that's the answer, 4.91. And that's the number of persons that you'll see on average in terms of change. Another way to look at that is the MAPE, or mean absolute percent error. And this is a percentage relative error. So instead of looking at just the overall change, you gained 5 people or you lost 5 people, you look at the relative change. So this county gained 0.5%, that county lost 1%, that county gained 2%, and you sum up all of that and take the average. And so what we see is that the MAPE is 0.04. So that's a very small number. That's 4/100th, I think it is, of a percent. A very small number in terms of relative accuracy. So very good. Zero is the goal for perfect accuracy. There's some other columns as well, but one that I wanted to touch on also are counts of outliers here. We do have counts of outliers over here on the right. I'm going to come back to those, but I just wanted to show you sort of what we're looking at here. Now, one feature of these detailed summary metrics is that you can easily sort of get a sense of how accurate the data were for this particular run. And you can also use it to compare across runs in the past. So here on the screen, you should see the change in mean absolute percent error. So this is that relative error metric, or MAPE, for county total population. And you can see that back in October 2019, our first demonstration data release, the relative error was about 0.75%. And now it's 0.04%. So what does that mean in actual persons? That went from 82 persons on average. The average county gained or lost 82 persons, and now the average county gains or loses about 5 people. So we're definitely seeing improvements there. One of the other nice parts of these detailed summary metrics is that we've broken it down by size category as well. We initially did this to see if there were sort of disproportionate impacts on the smaller geographies. And what we can see here is that the mean absolute error is approximately the same, for all counties, despite, the increase in size. So the smallest counties with a population of less than 1,000 gained or lost about 4 people, 3.75, and the average county of 100,000 or more people gained or lost about 5 people. So 4 to 5 people gaining or losing, in absolute terms. And so that's a feature of the top-down algorithm, that geographies that are on spine will have approximately the same amount of error no matter how big or how small the population is for that geography. So counties are on spine, it goes nation, state, county, and because of that, the smallest counties and the largest counties will have approximately the same mean absolute error, despite whatever size that might be. Now let's look at incorporated places. Incorporated places are what many of us think of when we think of our hometown. These are cities and towns, political and legal entities across the U.S. In total, there were 19,540 in 2010. And we can do the same exact sort of calculation to find statistics about accuracy for incorporated places. So here we can see that the average incorporated place gained or lost about 21 people, which, if you look at the MAPE, that's about 1.2% of the population. So we can see that these places are slightly less accurate than the average county, but keep in mind that these places are frequently very, very small. You can see that of those 19,000, 6,000 of them have fewer than 500 people. So those are going to have a larger percent error, but the larger incorporated places will have similar percent error to larger counties. One thing to note, is as long as I'm talking about sizes, is that unlike with counties, you'll see that places do, as they go up in population, they do tend to have a larger mean absolute error. Don't be alarmed. This is absolutely how it happens for these off-spine geographies. Places frequently cross county lines or cross tract lines, and so they are not on the geographic spine. So they will have this impact. But again, when you think about it in terms of the relative error, the MAPE, you can see that it's going down. It goes from 2.8 for those smallest places of fewer than 500 people to 0.15 for the places with the largest population. And once again, we can compare these across time. Going to look at places now. This is place total population. We've got the mean absolute percent error here on the vertical axis. You can see that in October of 2019, the average place saw a 10% change in its population based on the top-down algorithm application. And now we're much lower. We're seeing it's below 2%. So it's gone, again, from about 85 persons, the average place gained or lost, to now it's about 21 persons. So we are seeing improvements over time. One thing I also wanted to touch on were the outliers. There was some discussion that the outliers were a concern because it might be true that the overall number of counties or places might be improving, but maybe that meant that a couple of counties or a couple of places were getting much, much worse in terms of accuracy. And so we have these metrics that tabulate the number of the geography that exceed a 5 percentage point error. How many of them, gain more than 5% or lose more than 5% of their total population or their population of Hispanics or something like that. And so here, this is, again, looking at incorporated places. We're looking at the number of exceeding a 5 percentage point error for total population. And you can see that, in October, it was nearly 8,000 of the 19,000. So that's like 40% or so of the total number of incorporated places had these very large errors of more than 5%. And now that number is about 700. So we're seeing a significant increase, and a lot of that may be due to the improvements that Michael discussed in the algorithm and choosing the discrete Gaussian mechanism, which has those narrower tails, which means fewer very large outliers. Those are in these outlier metrics are generally in these tables over here on the right. Here's that 700 number I was mentioning before, that there are 700 of those that have an absolute percent difference exceeding 5%.
This is such helpful information, Matt. I'm really, it's really giving me a sense of how to look at these charts and kind of draw my own conclusions about how the algorithm is performing on the sample on the demonstration data at this time.